Welcome to the Warships Podcast with your host, Kelorn, Vanessaira, and Aerroon.
Hello, and welcome to the Warships Podcast, episode 132. My name is Vanessaira. I'm joined here with Aerroon and NoZoupForYou as we get on with our episode here. Kelorn is doing Aikido. He's off in, I think, Reno, Nevada, so he won't be joining us today. But in his spirit, we are continuing the podcast for this week here. We have NoZoup joining us to help us out this week. NoZoup, how have you been here? And coming along with the myriad of testing and a ton of ships that we've been going through.
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming. Really, we've got so many ships that have been thrown our way. I don't think I hit them all. I think I passed on the Conqueror T and a bunch of other ships just because there's so many of them. But I've been enjoying the ones that I've been playing, though, especially Georgia and Benham. I mean, those are two of the most fun test ships I've played in a long time, and I really hope they stay how they are right now, though. I think both of them might be a tad on the stronger side. I mean, not very, but the buffs they got are just phenomenal. So wargaming has definitely kept us busy, and it's been hard when you don't have the most time in the world, but playing them every now and then, I think players are in for a treat coming up. There's just so much coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I stayed pretty busy trying to test as much as I could with many of the ships, but I agree with you. I didn't touch the Conqueror T or Monarch T or some of those other Indomitable. I focused on a lot of the ships that I was, kind of really familiar with and really wanted to, hone in on those test variants and try and give as much feedback and really test data back to wargaming as possible.
Oh yeah, for sure. I did the same, and I enjoyed. Well, I want to say I enjoyed just about all of them for the most part. Definitely, Yoshino is a very strong ship as well, and I streamed up until the last minute I could last night, and I was trying to help players out because both Yoshino and the Georgia are going to be available for coal, and that's a pretty tough decision right there. I mean, they're two very strong ships, and it basically comes down to your play style and what you're looking for in a ship. And overall, I think Georgia is a lot more fun. But on the other hand, I think Yoshino will probably get more utility, especially I can see it being used in clan battles just because it's so tanky and it's got such a good fire chance. I don't know if I would say it's better than Stalingrad, but those 20-kilometer torps are just phenomenal for area denial. So that's a tough decision right there when you only have so much coal. And I know players are probably going to have enough for one or the other. So I just tried to say, if you're looking for something fun, go with the Georgia. If you're looking for something a little more competitive, Yoshino might be the way to go.
It's interesting because I know some of us had very varying opinions on USS Georgia. I want to love the ship, and I came into it loving the ship. I started with some amazing games in it, and then I've yet to have like a really outstanding or even mediocre game in the ship, and it's just kind of really crazy. All the stuff that they've given to it on paper, you look at it and it's like, yeah, this should be pretty amazing, but what I've experienced, I don't know. Yoshino, though, that is going to be a fun ship for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I could understand issues with the Georgia. For me, the Georgia's the YOLO ship. It's just a ship that I choose when I want to have fun. I look at the team build out first thing, and if there are few destroyers, I just go for it. I've got full secondary build on it. To me, it is a logical successor to the Massachusetts. It feels like it's big brother right now, and I just push in it. And you get close with those 18-inch guns, and they absolutely wreck face. And while you're doing that, your secondaries are just popping off at ships all around you. But again, it's going to be player dependent. And like you said, Yoshino, it's going to be fun as well, and I think a lot of players are going to like that. It's just really going to come down to personal preference and what players are looking for in the ship. If they're more of a brawler and they like and if they play, I guess, random battles more, then, Georgia might be their ship. If they're looking for something a little more competitive or clan capable, then I think Yoshino might be the way to go. Obviously, because it's a tier 10, and that's mostly what clan battles are. But I don't think you really go wrong with either of them. And we're only talking about those two ships right now, but there's just so many others out there too, like Benham with its. I've got my reload down to 75 seconds. I mean, it is a literal wall of torps. And I think a lot of players are going to have an absolute blast in that ship. So, I really have to commend Wargaming right now. They have not let up whatsoever. They just continue to pump things out. Just if anything, rather than slow down, they have ramped things up, and it's just going to continue throughout this year and next year. So I think players have a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely. And something that we haven't done in a little while on this show, we kind of give a buy, no buy. With the ones that we feel, are kind of going to be premium, obviously not line ships. So like Georgia, Yoshino, Benham. How about a buy, no buy? I know for me, I as much as I've harped on Georgia, I would still buy it. I think a lot of people will buy it and be extremely frustrated with it, but a ship like that I would still want in port, even if I'm going to pull my hair out. But of the three, a buy, no buy. Aerroon, what do you feel on Georgia, Benham, and Yoshino?
Do I have to answer this from my own perspective?
Yeah, go for it. Give what your personal thoughts are on it.
The answer is no buy. You'll probably find 2 premium ships in the game where I would maybe recommend to buying it, but that's simply because I generally don't see the point in buying many of the ships.
So you're just you're just anti-premium ship to begin with, then?
Well, not necessarily anti-premium ship, just buying them because they're super expensive in my opinion. But then we're talking, different economies in the world and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just why. But I think if you buy other premium ships, then I would probably say that Georgia is a ship you might want to buy. Because I do think she's going to be changed still, but she is the fastest battleship in the game by 5 knots, and she has Massachusetts secondaries, and still usable main guns. That's a combination that I don't think we're going to get very much anywhere else.
Yeah,
In terms of Benham, she puts out a lot of torpedoes, but I feel like you're going to be disappointed when you actually end up fighting other destroyers.
She's very situational, and
yeah.
From my experience, she does a lot better on maps with choke points, not so much on wide open maps.
Yeah, and you're gonna get screwed when a 12-kilometer radar, I don't know, Moskva or Donskoy or any of those rolls around, because you're probably not gonna be at your maximum torpedo range because you'll be doing your circles to drop torps from both sides. And the other thing is that I don't think Benham torpedoes are actually that amazing. For example, if you would take torpedo acceleration on them, they would just be worse torpedoes than the Mogador's torpedoes. Sure, they would have 500 meters extra range, but in every other aspect, they would just be worse.
Interesting.
And that just, in my opinion, says that the torpedoes on themselves aren't that amazing. You just have many of them, but, so do the French DDs. And Yoshino, I kind of disagree with your opinion on the fact that she would be good for competitive. She would be better for competitive, obviously, but I don't think she would actually replace something like a Zoup.
No, of course not.
She just doesn't fulfill the same roles. She might have good concealment and all those things, but it's still not anywhere near as good as Zoup. But the 20-kilometer torpedoes make her quite fun, and that would also be a ship I think you might want to buy if you buy premium ships normally.
Yeah, let me clarify about the whole competitive thing. I don't think you're going to see your top tier clans taking her out like you said, over Zhao or Henri or any of the other ships. But I can definitely see Yoshino popping up on some of the other clans, more, not really the extremely competitive ones, but the ones that are more out there to have fun, just because, it offers some level of protection, and they might not have the steel for the Stalingrad, or they might not have grinded up to Henri or a cruiser like that, and they might just have coal sitting around and use it. So, but yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think you're going to see, your really top tier clans using the ship, though I guess time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do agree. I don't think, granted, I mean, I haven't been able to play a lot of competitive, so, I just kind of speculate, but I kind of feel you're onto it. I think, some of the other options, especially Henri, are just going to be a more viable choice. And in that aspect, some might take Yoshino, but it's going to be a fun ship, definitely, for randoms. And I think that's where, a lot of people might really enjoy it. And Benham, I don't know. I had a lot of fun in the Benham, even with the proliferation of carriers and just the constant spotting. I did pretty good in the ship, and that was the 9.2 kilometer version. I didn't get to test the 10.5. I didn't realize that they slipped that change in there. So I was going based off of the previous iteration, and I was enjoying it then. And I was watching your Benham video last night, Zoup, and I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I now I really want to test this ship again, because if I enjoyed the 9.2, and yeah, the 10.5.
And don't forget, the 10.5s are also 10 knots faster.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
that's just...
So for me, my buy, no buy, I would say all three, but that's just me. But order of preference, I would go Georgia, Yoshino, and Benham. And I think Benham, which I've started calling Venom, it's a lot of fun, but I think that fun is going to be for more of the destroyer mains that are looking for that type of ship. I don't think Benham is going to be for everyone. And again, right now, destroyers, they've got it a little rough right now, though Benham does have defensive fire, which kind of sets it apart, and you can melt planes under certain circumstances. So, that's another plus about the Benham that you might want to think about. You don't have speed boost, but you've got that defensive fire, and right now having that defensive fire is a really good thing. But yeah, out of the three ships, I'd probably pick Benham last, just because Georgia has been so much fun, and Yoshino, I mean, it's a toss-up between those two because they're just both very strong ships. But by buy, I mean coal for sure. I mean, if you've got extra disposable income laying around, yeah, go for it. But they're probably going to be fairly expensive if they do offer them for cash or coal. So, but those are my recommendations on the whole buy side of things.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend Yoshino probably first. Benham, I know as mostly a destroyer player, people would be like, what? But no, Yoshino is an incredibly fun ship. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. Yeah, Georgia, I've had up and downs with it, but I think people who understand what they're getting into will have fun with it. But I do regretfully feel that some people are going to buy this ship and are going to be like, ugh, why did I buy this again? Because there's going to be really frustrating moments, and those 6 guns are sometimes they do amazing things. Sometimes you hit and you do nothing, and you're like, wait a minute. And then other times you get these silly, like, angled citadels on battleship. How did that happen? How did you like almost want to watch the replay and see where the shell landed and what? But with these new ships, we have more new ships. And speaking of 6-gunned ships, we have the German Tier 9 cruiser shown on the dev blog, the Siegfried, which has 6 guns as well, torpedoes, among other things. It is a Tier 9 cruiser, German cruiser with 380 millimeter main battery guns. And looks pretty much kind of in this, similarities with a lot of the other large cruisers or super cruisers, as people have kind of been calling. Just kind of looking at the stats, topping out 33.5 knots with a detectability of 15.1 unbuffed. Damage control, German hydro, fighter, and repair party. So pretty much standard looking, for a German quote unquote super cruiser or large cruiser. Looking at this, what do you guys feel? Arun?
She is nice to know, except at tier 9 and the cruiser for some reason, because it's basically the same guns, or at least the stats that you can see, we can see so far is basically the same. The damage output is going to be very similar. I guess the guns are going to be more accurate, but other than that, she feels so much like a Gneisenau, except she has slightly better armor, slightly more HP, better accuracy, and slightly longer range torpedoes. I think even the secondaries might be the same or similar. Nope, never mind. They're not quite the same. But yeah, 380 guns on a cruiser. It makes me think, hey, Wargaming, let's implement a limitation in clan battles to how many battleships you have. And then later we'll just release battleships as cruisers. I don't know, feels kind of counterproductive, but I guess we'll see. It could very well be that the ship just isn't very fun to play with in the first place because you only have 6 guns. But I've enjoyed Gneisenau, so I think I'm going to enjoy this ship too. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Real quick before I go into my thoughts of it, I do want to mention regarding the previous 3 ships we were talking about. Again, they're work in progress and subject to change. And I think Aerroon alluded to at one point. I think we are going to see changes on them. I don't see Yoshino keeping his 20-kilometer torps. I don't think George is going to keep that reload buff, and Benham might lose a little bit of its torpedo reload. That's just my thoughts. But moving on, this ship, yeah, it looks like a Gneisenau. It shoots like a Gneisenau. It is a Gneisenau with 2 extra kilometers of torp range. For me, this is going to be a hard sell. And it's not because I don't like Gneisenau. I enjoyed Gneisenau a lot. I thought she was excellent at blapping cruisers. And, it's another one of those tier 9/tier 10 super cruisers that they keep inserting in the game. And I guess, we've done Russia, we've done the US for the most part, we've done Japan, and now we're working on Germany. So, what is the role that Wargaming wants with these ships? What gap or what void do they want them to play? I mean, we're already seeing power creep on these things with Stalingrad and Kronstadt, and Yoshino is going to be powerful. Are we going to get to the point where our tech tree ships like Des Moines and similar just aren't worth as much as they used to be? And I hate to see that happen because they're just really, really fun ships. But when you start this kind of arms race with really good large guns on a cruiser platform, I mean, if you don't give it vulnerabilities, it just makes it unfun. And let's face it, with Stalingrad, it has vulnerabilities, but not compared to other traditional cruisers. And again, Alaska, for that matter, is phenomenal at bow tanking. So I don't know where Wargaming is going with all these types of cruisers. And yes, I know players get excited about them. I know they have a lot of fun with them, and the people that purchase them seem to enjoy them a lot. But I also know a lot of players that play against them don't like playing against them, and that's completely understandable. So, yeah, Gneisenau at tier 9. I'm going to have to play it to get a good opinion on it, and whether, I might like the ship, but I don't necessarily know if I like the direction we're heading with with these ships in general.
I'd like to say, though, that I think being worried about cruisers getting bigger guns, I don't think that's actually so bad, because they don't really fulfill the same role as cruisers normally do anymore once they get bigger guns, because they just don't have the DPM usually, which I think is an okay trade-off. Because the worst thing they could do is take like Atlanta guns and put them on like a battleship hull. That would be the worst part, because the HE DPM would be crazy and it would be very frustrating to play against. Whereas I would much rather take battleship guns on a cruiser platform, because you can at least sink that thing much more easily and it's not going to set you immediately on fire again.
Which battleship did they do that for? Which U.S. battleship? Vanessa, do you remember? I think it was like a New Mexico class where they took the front guns off and they put the 5-inchers on.
I don't recall that. I would have to.
I'll have to research that.
But I mean, you kind of have that with Scharnhorst in the game, which is just those fast-firing 11-inch guns with all the secondaries and torpedoes and.
Yeah, but Scharnhorst HE DPM is kind of terrible though, so it's whatever, because you'll get out DPM'd by Myoko very easily. I mean, your damage per shell is worse than Myoko's, and you have a much longer reload, worse accuracy, and all those things.
Yeah, I mean, I look at these and I kind of feel the same, like, oh, we implemented these limitations to battleships in clan battles, and now we're going to release all these large quote-unquote cruisers. And it does kind of strike me as a little interesting on that. But at least, the ships they're doable. Some, are kind of, yeah. But, like I was saying, I really like Yoshino. So there are, there's good ones. There's ones that I feel are balanced. I feel Alaska's pretty good. Of course, everyone's got their opinions on Stalingrad. But with Siegfried, it definitely remains to be seen. I wanted to go into it like Georgia, just really hyped and psyched about it. But I do know, with Gneisenau, I enjoy the ship. The guns frustrate me just as much as Georgia does. The only saving grace is, Georgia is also even faster than Gneisenau, but Gneisenau is really nimble. It's got amazing secondaries. It's got tier 9 AA on a tier 7 ship. And you have torpedoes. So you have all those different weapon systems and good maneuverability and good speed. And it just makes the ship fun to play. Even if your main battery guns are letting you down a little bit, you've got all these other systems to fall back upon. And Siegfried, I feel, will be kind of like that. I'll definitely put a ton of testing into it and, see if that kind of holds true. And, we'll just wait to see.
USS Wyoming. That's the ship. They replaced their front turrets with two 5-inch turrets, the double mounts. So you basically had kind of mini Atlanta on the front on the body of a battleship. There it is. Let's put that in the game.
That's amazing.
Yeah, look it up. Look at the photos of it. It's crazy. Yeah, let's put that in the game at low tiers and see how that does. Because I think Wyoming wasn't. I think that might be what class Arizona was, from what I can see. I might be mistaken, but yeah, it's crazy. So, all right, we've got more ships coming up too, right?
Absolutely.
Sure. Actually,
Aerroon, did you want to add one?
Yes, I wanted to say that the guns on the Gneisenau are a lot better than they're going to be on the Siegfried. Not because of any of the stat thing, but just because your 380s at tier 7 are going to overmatch quite many ships. 380s at tier 9 are not going to overmatch that many ships. There are many more cruisers at tier 9 and 10 and even 8 that have armor plates that you simply will bounce off of. Whereas at tier 7 and below, you're not going to have that many of those kinds of ships. So you're going to have a much more difficult time utilizing those 380 guns on the Siegfried, I think.
Yeah, and that's the other concern I have with the ship as well. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see if it's more of an HE type ship, and it's probably going to be both. I can see this being one of their ships where you want to use HE half the time and AP half the time when you get those juicy broadside targets. But like you said, even then, even against those broadside targets, well, I guess we'll have to see when it comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of me is thinking, along the lines of, Tirpitz and Bismarck, is this something where they're going to have to buff the secondaries and have it, kind of augment? Because, those 15-inch guns at, those higher tiers can be incredibly frustrating to use on certain ships. So, yeah, we will have to see. We'll have to see how accurate the guns are and how good the HE spam is. And as Zoup alluded to, yes, we have more ships. We have the famed British Carrier Ark Royal finally coming to the game after, all the other carriers and the carrier rework. We're finally getting this venerable carrier. What do you think, Zoup?
I, for one, am looking forward to this ship getting in the game just because of the history of it. And I visited Malta last year, and Ark Royal was talked about a lot there as well. It holds a significant place in the hearts of many in Malta as well. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays, because when you read into it, it says more planes that do less damage. So you're basically going to have large swarms of bees that have little stings compared to, a few hornets with a bigger sting. So I'm very curious to see how that will work out. And I'm curious to see how strong its planes are going to be. And, if anything, we're going to see some ships starting to see their shot down planes just skyrocket, from like 20 around to maybe 40 or something like that, if that's what they're averaging. So overall, I think this ship is more of a crowd pleaser. I think it's in here because people want it, and a lot of players are looking forward to it. And I mean, it's a smart move on Wargaming's part. It's probably going to sell very, very well just because of what this ship is. As far as how it's going to play, though, I mean, I don't know. Carriers are kind of they're polarizing right now. Let's just leave it at that.
Let's put it euphemistically. Aerroon?
I think Ark Royal is going to be great in the game. It's not going to have any problems. I cannot foresee a single issue that people are going to have with this ship.
Am I detecting veiled sarcasm right there?
Except for, let me guess, Bismarck players?
Nah, that too.
I actually think Bismarck players won't care too much about it. I think it's all the smaller ships that will care.
Oh, come on. You cannot tell me that the first thing you're going to do when you test this ship is find a Bismarck player and fly your planes to it.
So the question is, are we going to get the correct swordfishes on it with torpedoes, unlike the other Royal Navy aircraft carriers in the game?
Are you saying you don't like swordfishes as dive bombers? Or bombers?
I just prefer them in their torpedo format. But I don't know how they would fare at high tiers.
Well, maybe that's why there's so many of them.
That would be interesting. Does it say what type of airplanes they're getting?
No, the dev blog just gives us an image, and you can kind of see on the deck the planes, at least at the front, and they're definitely swordfish.
Yeah, probably.
It's hard for me to see what's in the back, though. So I'm sure someone who's can blow up the image and really kind of zoom in can tell. But I mean, you kind of gotta know that. I mean, I feel like it's gotta have the stringbacks with torpedoes. I mean, it's gotta have it.
Yeah, so that would make sense then if they're using those, because they're probably going to have fewer hit points. But if you've got just an overwhelming amount of them, it could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, again, this is work in progress, and we truly don't know with Ark Royal. But I mean, think of the feedback that would be present if it didn't have swordfish with torpedoes on the Ark Royal. And I'm sure a lot of people would really, throw a million posts in the forums. And we have one more ship to talk about, and that is the Dutch ship Friesland. It is a destroyer. It was made slightly after World War II, and some of it's got like bits and pieces. Like some of it has some parts and things from the Goering class destroyer, and this is going to be the first pan-European ship in the game. Though we're going to test it under the Polish flag for now because it's just game mechanics, but we're finally getting pan-European ships. So, Aerroon, what do you think first of this destroyer? And then also, what do you think about pan-European ships?
Is it really gonna be the first pan-European destroyer? Isn't it the Błyskawica? But fine, I guess. Fine. But I mean, it's only 4 guns. I think unless the guns end up. Wait, actually, no. I take that back. It has a reload time of 1.8 seconds. Never mind. This is gonna be. My mouse is gonna cry when I play this ship, but it might be interesting. In fact, this might be one of the ships where you simply hold down the mouse button because the guns will be firing constantly anyway. I think it depends on how the guns handle, because it feels kind of like an all-arounder DD, from what I can understand. She's not particularly fast. She I think doesn't wait. Does it say anything about torpedoes? I can't actually see anything about torpedoes.
No, that is the first thing I noticed. There is nothing about torpedoes on there. And if you look at the photo, it doesn't look like there's torpedo tubes on there. So this would be the first ship, if there are no first destroyer without torpedoes, right?
Yeah, I think so. But my question is, what are those things right behind the front turret?
I think those are related to
Those
AA. They look like the rocket, kind of like hood-style rocket tubes.
So I guess this is going to be like an
well, it says it's
DD?
a support DD. So, yep,
that'll be interesting. We'll see how this works out. But I think it might not end up being the most fun to play for many players, because the guns in this ship, you'll have to fire a lot. This is going to be a lot of clicking, and that's your only type of damage you can deal. So I think many people are going to feel that the ship isn't going to be too much fun, but we'll see how she actually works out.
Yeah, I think Diablo players will be at home with this ship. Yes, I'm looking at the armament. It does not list torpedoes for it. Those 4-barrel, it looks like those are quad anti-submarine mortars, or at least according to its armament. So I don't know how that would be implemented unless. But
I know what you're thinking.
Yeah, if we do ever see subs in the game that are in like a random battle mode or something, I just side tangent aside, if we do get, I always hope that it's just scenario only and not like in random battle. But if it did, it'd be really cool, because then you could add depth charges to the game and you could add some cool warfare in that aspect. But going back to the ship, yeah, this is definitely going to be just hold the mouse button down, because I'm not going to sit there and just click to death, and I'm not going to play Diablo 2 with this destroyer. And it does have a lot of support equipment that it's bringing to the party. So I mean, it's kind of a jack of all trades DD with an insane rate of fire. And just, you won't have torpedoes, but at least maybe it's other systems. It's anti-aircraft and everything will be solid enough that maybe. I mean, it's got defensive fire as well. I mean, it's bringing a lot of consumables, pretty fast, long. So it's, you know what? I bet this is one that is depending on how long the smoke lasts, where it could, stay in smoke for quite a long time.
I'm gonna put on the tinfoil hat right now. I the first thing I noticed on this ship on reading it was the lack of torpedoes. And the second thing I noticed on this ship was what appeared to be stronger than normal destroyer AA. I feel that this is wargaming stealthily acknowledging that there is currently a problem with aircraft carriers when dealing with destroyers and vice versa. And I think this is a move in the direction to kind of say, hey, we see that. We're presenting you destroyer players with a tool now that will help mitigate the issues that aircraft carriers are presenting to you. That is what this ship seems like to me, just on its build out, what it has, the defensive fire. We're not going to give you torps because we're going to allow you to shoot down a lot of airplanes. And if we gave you torps, it would be a little too powerful. But we're going to give you better, faster gun reloads so you can deal with other destroyers. But it appears that they really expect this ship to straight up be played as a support destroyer, which they said, supporting not only your battleships and cruisers, but supporting your destroyers as well. So I really think that. What am I looking at right here? No, sorry, I got sidetracked, saw a shiny object. So with this ship in general, I think that's what we might be, I think that's what wargaming might be doing for us right here. And as far as the pan-European line as a whole, or pan-Euro, are they going to move Błyskawice to that? Apparently, it looks like they will. Sorry, Poland, you're losing your national flavor. A little unfortunate, but I wonder if they're going to go that route where you've got these stronger AA-capable destroyers just because CVs are so prevalent right now. So with that being said, I'm now going to remove my tinfoil hat. And that's that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I again was looking at the AA, and maybe that is something that the destroyer will have really going for it. Almost kind of look at it in the same vein as you would like Minotaur or Worcester, and that it's bringing a pretty insane designed anti-aircraft suite to the table. You were like Grozavoy, something that is really kind of thought with anti-plane in mind. I feel like with the play style, this will probably be supporting. I could see this like being divved with like spammy cruisers and just like smoking them up and like, okay, well, we're just gonna spam and have an insane amount of fire. You could pair this up with a Worcester and really make people's days really bad. I'm kind of curious. I need to look at the range again. I didn't look at the range of the main battery.
I think 12.3 starting.
12.3.
So that's likely if you around 16 or 17 kilometers if you put everything up.
If you if you take that that module, I could see it depends on the shell arc, the speed. What, 825 meters per second? I'm trying to think what that is.
I think
that's a little faster than US and British. Or is it the same?
I think it's about USN, and for some reason the only ship that sticks out in my mind is North Carolina, and I think that's like 817.
Yeah, you're right.
So we'll see. I don't know that it's going to be like moonshot high.
Yeah, or like the French destroyers we've been testing. But yeah, I totally, another ship that I want to test. And interesting that this is the first Dutch ship in the game. I was kind of hoping for De Ruyter, but maybe sometime in the future we'll see that. Obviously, we now have this change to the Pan-European line, and hopefully, it might have to be way down the road, but I'm hoping we could see, maybe Finnish ships, Swedish ships, Greek, Romanian. There's quite a few different Spanish. I'd love to see some Spanish ships in the game. So there's, this is now hey, we've acknowledged this, and now there's hope for a lot of these other countries that want to see some representation in the game and get them in.
My question is that if another destroyer, Friesland, can get the defensive fire, when are we going to get defensive fire Nakizuki class destroyers?
Oh, God. Yeah, it's something that's been asked for a long time. And, honestly, I feel that, USN ships maybe now should just get defensive fire as just a standard national ability. That might be too OP, but with the way carriers have been going and opinions being polarizing, I don't know. I feel like you look at a lot of these other destroyer lines and cruisers, and they get so many toys to play with, consumables on their ships, and the USN has to pick either speed boost or AA. And a lot of other nations will get speed boost and smoke and reload booster and all these different things. And I just feel like maybe it should be thought about. I don't know, maybe it would be too quote unquote overpowered, but with the way that the power creep has been and CV has been so polarizing.
Just give defensive fire to everything. Absolutely everything, including the tier 1 ships.
I'm sure there are plenty of players out there who would not have an issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The whole carrier thing, so much stuff right now is a work in progress with the game. As, they're testing and trying to work out the kinks and trying to bring in the balance. But, yeah, we'll see with these new ships. I'm excited to test. I haven't really been touching the carriers too much, but I will play a bit of Ark Royal just because of the history with that. And speaking of devblog, with some of the new information we got coming out, there is also this new post-apocalyptic mode coming out that was shown for the super test. Interesting, like Mad Max on the sea with destroyers. Some of them, your guns are, auto, like the computer fires for you. Others, you have control. It's very interesting. What do you think, Zoup?
I think Wargaming learned a lot from this past April Fool's event with the space battles, and not specifically the space battles, but the torpedo beats. I think players really, really enjoyed it. I think they saw that. And I would assume, though, that this has been in the works probably before that was released, just because of the dev cycle and how long it takes to produce things. But they probably knew that Eurobeats was going to have a hit. I'm sure they played it well before we did, and knew they had something there. And it seems like this kind of has that torpedo beats type of vibe, where you've got some manual armaments, you've got some that you use, and I'm totally for this. It adds variety to the game. It adds fun. The players enjoyed a lot. It's a good break from the grind. It's a good break from clans and ranked and even random battles. So I commend Wargaming for doing these, and it appears like they're doing them more often now. So anytime we get a new game mode to re-energize players and to keep them in the game and to kind of turn their attention away from things that annoy them and give them something that they really enjoy, I'm behind it 100%.
Aerroon?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's cool to see these kinds of stuff in the game, but I wonder how much like, I definitely want these kinds of things to be in the game, but I also wonder how much it'll impact, how fractured players are going to be, and if this type of mode is either going to just die off eventually, or maybe it'll just split the player base. I'm kind of unsure. So if it doesn't rely on large amounts of players, I think it's fine. But when it does, I think it might just be not great for the game in the very long run. But maybe, it won't matter too much. I'm definitely interested in trying to dodge some torpedoes, though. But I
I
wonder
don't
how the
think this is going to be
performance
one of those
gonna be.
game modes that stays permanently, though. I mean, and depending on how long it's in there, I don't think it really would create too much of a split, because you're still going to have players that are like, all right, this is fun for a round, maybe two. I'm done with this. I'm going back to randoms. I just needed a break. And then you might have some players that are like, all right, I'm going to try and get that 200 insane amount of torpedo hits so I can get this super shiny captain or whatever the reward is for it. So you'll have two class of players, and I think it will also draw in the co-op players as well, which, if they make up half or the majority, or not even quite half, it's not going to take too much away from the random battles. So I view it as a good thing, and I don't think it's going to have too much of effect overall, but I do see your concerns, though.
Yeah, I think, we'd probably see that more on the NA server than maybe the EU or CIS. But yeah, I agree. If you bring some more modes to the table, as long as there's not like so many, we see, the ranked, then the clan battles, and the ranked, and vice versa. I think it can still bring people to the game, and there's still going to be people playing randoms. There's still going to be people, playing the other modes. And, I think that aspect of it is still going to be okay.
I do love the saw blades at the front of those destroyers, though. I can understand what those destroyers are supposed to be used for now.
Getting your buzz on?
Yes, exactly. I wonder if they'll still take damage when you ram with them, though.
Maybe built-in ram flag?
Sure.
Any other thoughts on those, Zoup, before we move on to our question?
No, not
of the
really.
week?
Just I hope they continue to do this in the future. Maybe one per quarter or two per year. I think that would be enough to refresh the player base every now and then. So I'm sure we'll see something around Halloween time.
Yeah, maybe something along the summer for this, and then maybe something for Halloween, which has been really good. Quite a few events, and these also kind of test out other systems, that quote unquote that we've seen come into the game. So that's another thing that kind of forgot to bring up, is a lot of these game modes, we kind of test and run through the paces of these new things that they want to add to the game, and see if it's something that really would be good for kind of random battles, and just kind of throwing them in there like bastions and stuff like that. But on to our question of the week, which comes from dawggunner on the forums. And what is y'all's opinion on Italian ships we currently have? And what other Regia Marina ships would you like to see? Just an Italian bump. And on that note, yesterday, or later today, anyway, time zone differences aside, Evelyn and Earl Grey were on the EU stream, and they did confirm that we will be seeing the Italian cruiser line. So that is interesting. We're finally starting to get, more Italian ships, and now we have news on an actual Italian line of ships coming, and they are the cruisers. So I figured we'd have a little discussion here. First, what do you feel about the current Italian ships that we have in the game? And then, maybe let's talk about some Italian cruisers. Zoup, what do you feel? I know you like Italian ships.
Yeah, about that, I can't tell you the last time I played an Italian ship. I hate to say it, but I haven't played my Roma in ages, really, just because there's a lot better options out there at that tier, and it's unfortunate. Um, yeah, so Italian ships overall, the ones we have in game, I mean, I remember the cruisers being decent, similar to the French ships, fast, got those long range torps, but I, the, they just they came out a while ago, and it seems like they've been kind of power creep by everything else that's been released. As far as what I would like to see, I think it's a ship that the majority of everyone has been expecting and would like to see, and that's the Vittorio Veneto. But I don't think there have been any plans for that yet, and I don't think it's been mentioned yet, as far as I know. But I mean, overall, anytime we get a new ship line, it's exciting, and seeing some very high tier Italian cruisers might be cool. I think given what cruisers we have right now, it kind of indicates that they're going to have a faster play style, more fragile, but the ability to, just kind of put out rounds a little quicker, not very strong rounds, but, will light fires, everything else, or at least, that's what I'm thinking. And I think there'll be a lot of appeal for that type of ship. And, I think a lot of people liked the Italian ships, or at least the cruisers that came out, like the Duca. You don't see them much anymore being played. And I don't know if that's just because they were released so long ago, the players that had them are no longer playing, or again, that there's just much better options at the tier to play with. And, that's kind of what I'm suspecting. And of course, the outlier being the Giulio Cesare, which is still the absolute seal clubber that it is. That's probably that's actually the most recent one that I've played. I can tell you that with 100% certainty. Yeah, that's kind of where I stand on Italian ships right now. I really hope there's something that can make them exciting and make players want to play them, because outside of the Cesare, what we have now, I just don't see them that much, and I personally don't play them that much anymore.
Interesting. Now, Aerroon, do you play Italian ships much? Is it something? I know some people kind of liken them, really to a kind of high skill ships. What do you feel on them?
I don't know about them being high skill ships, but I definitely can say I don't play them much, because I think I have maybe 15 games total in all the Italian ships, other than test matches. Because I don't, I think the only Italian ship I actually have other than the battleships is the Roma, and I've only played a few games with her because she just doesn't, she isn't very interesting to me. Not because the ship itself isn't okay, but you're constantly in tier 10 matches, and Roma is tier 8, right? I think she is.
No.
So you're constantly being up tiered, and that's just not fun to play. My most played ship used to be the Tirpitz, and even that I play very rarely nowadays, because being a Tirpitz in a tier 10 match just is not fun. Your guns aren't great, and you basically get eaten by cruisers. And I feel Roma suffers from the same issue, and as a result, I don't really play them much. And playing mid tiers also feels kind of terrible. Not necessarily because you get up tiered, you do, but mostly because there are carries, and carries kind of ruin the game. And mid tiers, there seem to be even more carries than at the higher tiers, so it becomes even worse to play. And so I really haven't played them much. And I'm not really sure how they could fix it either. Maybe give defensive fire to all the Italian ships or something. I agree with you about the tier 8s.
I mean, really, out of the tier 8 battleships, the only one I'd take into battle and feel comfortable against the tier 10 ship is Massachusetts, and that's just because of the secondaries. And even then, it's going to have large chunks taken off of it, which is to be expected. But yeah, I same with you. I don't think they're bad ships. I just don't play them. They're beautiful, but the interest just isn't there right now. And I think in order for them to really catch on with the community, they're going to have to give them a reason to exist and reason for players to want to play them right now. And I know you love Italian ships, Vanessa. So what do you think that X factor for them should be?
Well, that's a really good question. And I should clarify, like, high skill ceiling ships. Like, I feel like you really have to play the ships to a high level in order to, reap the most benefit out of it. And that might be kind of, the issue with some of these ships. I think some people take them and they're like, I didn't perform as good as I thought I would. I'd rather play like an IJN cruiser or, a ship line that, or a premium ship that might lend itself a little better towards their play style. And that might be something that is just, kind of lacking. Maybe, we don't have that wow factor that is like, hey, this is what Italian ships are known for, and just wows people into playing them. I think yes, you have amazing agility and amazing speed. I really like the sea mines. The AP, the faster AP versus the slower AP. I really like that. I really like the interesting, you're constantly changing your shells. You do have, at least on the cruisers, you have some nice consumable toys to work with, and popping defensive AA, not that you're really going to shoot down any planes, but at least it lets the torpedoes go at an angle and let you torpedo beat with your speed and agility. But with the ships that we have, it's a mixed bag. I enjoy playing them, but it definitely requires a lot of, I want to say, effort, and like you really have to put your mind into the ships to try and make them work, compared to, I think, other ships just lend itself a little better towards its ease of style or gameplay style. And that might be something that has been plaguing these ships. And we know we've got the Italian cruiser line coming out, and there's, some notables in there. Definitely everyone's, I would say, looking for Zara, and wanting to, get their hands on that ship. We know how I would say Hipper and Prinz Eugen is popular, probably more popular on the EU server. You still see enough people, but that's another ship that, even with the kind of recent buffs, you don't see much. And maybe that's just, it's been a while since, the Prinz Eugen has been available, if I remember. I can't remember how long ago it was available. Or it might be available for in-game gold? I don't know. I haven't looked at that depot shop in a while on the ships. But, we have Italian cruisers coming. Again, we've got some notables, and I want to kind of take the opportunity here. There is been so many Italian ship fans on the forums, and they have been passionate about, they have made extreme, well-detailed forums post on ships and tech trees for the Italian Navy. And, it's just amazing to see, there are people who are looking forward to these ships, and they want them to be represented well. And it's going to be a gaming development challenge for wargaming to make these ships right. In my opinion, I feel, the opinions of a lot of people, especially, the fans of the Regia Marina.
Well stated. A well-stated defense of Italy.
Well, come on. They had one of the nicest navies going into the war, granted its outcome and usage aside. But still, at least going into the war, they had one of the best navies. And it's nice that we're finally starting to see a line. And, we're kind of, this along with the Pan-European, hopefully with the Pan-American or Pan-South American, we're going to get to see a lot of these ships that we know historically or existed, and give those other countries and regions their
No,
time to
I
shine in the
agree.
game.
And it's always nice, when, I mean, let's face it, people care about their ships. I mean, the same reason why we want to see ships like the USS New Jersey in, in the US, it even breaks down to state Washington,
You
of
forgot
course.
one.
Um,
Yes, thank you.
so adding Italy, I think, would go a long way because, there's a lot of Italians out there. I mean, my wife's Italian, and she's even said, "Why do you play Italian ships?" And I'm like, well, there's just not a lot in the game. So there are still a lot of gaps that need to be filled, and it's encouraging to see that wargaming is slowly filling those gaps in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, are we gonna see the carrier that the Italians had, Aquila? I think that would be very appropriate in the game right now.
I was kind of wanting to touch on that. I know how polarizing carriers are, but the Italians did have carriers. They also had designs for other carriers too. The question would be what kind of aircraft you use. I can think of a couple, but yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, you could, in essence, actually do, all four lines in theory, for especially with how the carriers are divided every 2 tiers. I could see that kind of working, maybe at least up to tier 8. I don't know what they could do about a tier 10, but I'm sure they could paper design something out of that. I mean, wild speculation here, folks. Just speculating. We don't know anything on this. All we know is that there is an Italian cruiser line that Evelyn did say, and it's going to be a mixed bag. We're probably going to see, start off with a traditional, that tier 1 cruiser ish, like something type of starter ship, and then move on to your World War I or interwar period ships, and on from there we're probably going to see a lot of light cruisers, maybe mixed, obviously with some heavy cruisers. Maybe kind of how like the USN cruiser line was, where you had those lights going up to heavies, or kind of more akin to the IGN, where you've got right up to that point, and then boom, it's 203 all the way. And we could also do this, the same for the Italian battleships. I mean, there's so many different God, I can't even wait for destroyers. I cannot wait to see, we've tested Leone and what that style of gameplay is going to be. There's quite a few Italian destroyers to choose from, and is that something that we feel is going to be indicative of the other destroyers that we're going to see? Are the 2 Italian cruisers that we have in game, is that also going to be indicative of what we're going to see in the Italian cruiser line? Is it going to be more or less the same, or is there going to be something really changing, like maybe along the lines of British cruisers, where you have the British cruiser line that only has AP, and then you have special premiums that have HE or different options and bring different gameplay overall. I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, there's so many things that wargaming can go with this. I just know, they're going to have, if they're going to try and make this different and make Italy shine, they're definitely going to have to bring something. I don't know. I don't know. It's definitely a gaming development challenge.
Yeah, I agree, but I think I've got faith in Wargaming. I think they know what they're doing a little bit. I know other players might not, based upon some of the decisions that have happened lately. But no, I'm excited for Italy coming in. I'm excited for the pan-European ships coming in. I think overall, with just the absolute abundance of premiums that we've had to test and everything coming our way. I'm really excited for the rest of this year, and not only the rest of this year, but next year as well, because it seems like, we've got enough content to go well into 2020 at this point. And I'm sure they've planned for beyond that as well. So I can only imagine what we're going to see, this time next year and what's going to be in the works. So, while some games would be winding down this far in its life cycle, it really seems that wargaming has hit its stride with World of Warships right now, and it's just continuing to go. They're continuing to pump stuff out. So exciting times.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is one of those few games where, I mean, you literally, there's always something in development for it, and you don't have to wait long for something new to come along down the line. I mean, it really, just kind of carries through with every couple of weeks. There's something new to look forward to. There's something new being tested and brought out. And, this game is what, getting on 4 or 5 years? God, I'm forgetting how long I've actually been playing it. It seems like forever.
Yep. No, I agree. And it's got a core group of loyal followers. It's regularly bringing new people in to fill the attrition for players that leave. Overall the game is healthy right now. Even with everything going on with the carriers, I think we're in good shape. And I know that for a fact just from having gone to the USS New Jersey a couple weeks ago, and just it was a sellout. There are 300 players there, all excited to be there. All ages, from players in their 60s all the way down to preteens, husbands, wives, just everyone. And it was just awesome seeing the community out there. And, it's very evident that wargaming has, and especially World of Warships, has a very different type of community. It might even differ from the EU in a way. I think we bring in not only gamers, but people that love the ships for their historic value as well. And that's very unique to games. That doesn't happen that often. You don't get players that just play a game because they love the content in the game. So, it's kind of special in a way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I agree on the Anchors Away tour. If you folks can go, I highly recommend going to one of these events, because, we could talk about, how much wargaming cares. I mean, we talk to the devs every day. We literally are in constant discussion. We know how much they care about this game. But when you go in person and you see how much wargaming cares about their product, and it's not only World of Warships, it's tanks, even planes, they care about planes. They care about their products. Masters of Orion, it doesn't, wargaming cares. And if you go to one of these events, you get to meet the devs, you get to meet the people, and you really get a sense of the community and how much wargaming loves their community. They may not always do the best things in your opinion. There's definitely a lot of polarizing things out there. I mean, we fight with family members all the time. We don't always agree, with friends. But when you go in person, it is an amazing experience, and I could not recommend it more. If you have a chance to go, at least here in the NA, I don't know, is Aerroon, are they doing stuff like that in the EU regions?
I think they have done some in the UK. Not sure about elsewhere. Probably Russia as well.
Oh, I'm sure they've done it in the CIS regions. That's got to be something that they've had to have done. And maybe, I'll have to look around and see what museums and stuff they have in and around, and see what they've done on the EU side of things. And hopefully, on the Asian realms, they've done that as well. But I know here, if you are in the NA side of things and you have a chance to go to an Anchors Away, please, by all means, make an effort to go, because it truly is a wonderful experience. And I think you've been to a couple, Zoup?
Oh yes, been to more than a few, and hopefully for you all out there that are going up to the Massachusetts, I'm going to be there as well. So please stop by, say hi. I'd love to talk ships with you, shake your hand or whatever. But looking forward to that event very much.
Absolutely, I wish I could go. I am planning on going later this year, up here in the Pacific Northwest. Well, we're almost at an hour and 15 on this episode. Quite a long episode here. We'll wrap things up. Zoup, do you have any closing
no,
thoughts?
not really. Just as for always, thank you all for having me on. Always a pleasure coming on the show. Always a pleasure talking ships with you all and for your listeners. So thanks, and just really excited for what's coming out in the future. You can
Zoup,
find me
where can we
on
find
my
you?
YouTube channel at it's just YouTube/NoZoupForYou, or on the same on Twitch, NoZoupForYou, though I stream a little less frequently, and then Twitter NoZoupForYou_. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Aerroon, same. Where can we find you?
YouTube. Just search Aerroon, I guess. You'll find all the things where I'm. Twitch and YouTube, I think.
And any closing thoughts we have for the show?
I think CV spotting still needs to be changed. And perhaps damage output against DDs.
Yeah, it's definitely a polarizing one. We've seen a lot of discussion and interaction very recently about a lot of that. All right, well, I don't have much to wrap up with here on the show. I want to thank Zoup for joining us here. Had quite a long episode. Thank you for bearing with us as we talked quite a bit on various things, including the Italian Navy. This is the Warships Podcast. My name is Vanessaira. Thank you so much to all of our supporters, especially our Patreons. You can find us on Facebook. And again, thank you for listening to the Warships Podcast.